Hello, everyone. Welcome to Intro to Zen Meditation. My name is Meredith. I'm happy to be here with you tonight. For anybody who is new to meditation, welcome. Hi, welcome. Hi, guys. Welcome. Are any of you new to Zen meditation?
I've been here a couple of times.
Couple of times. Still kind of new, though, to meditation in general?
Yes.
Okay, and you're new to meditation. Okay, so I like to start this class by going over like proper ways to sit in Zen meditation, because posture is so very important in this type of meditation. Proper alignment allows the body and us to sit and breathe more efficiently, and allows us to sit for longer periods of time. In traditional formal Zen practice, you'll encounter zazen sessions, which require practitioners to sit for really long periods of time over numerous days. And so this is why the posture is so important. Generally speaking, though, for any zazen practice, you should still strive for proper alignment. So let's do this together before we sit for the first time. As we get ready to meditate, you want to keep your back straight. Your head and your neck should be in line with your spine. You can drop your shoulders away from your ears, and you can tuck your chin in just slightly. So whether you're sitting on a cushion or on a meditation bench or in a chair, the main requirement is to be stable and upright and ready to sit still for however long you're going to sit. So sometimes gently swaying from side to side can help you find the most stable position for your body. Give yourself a second to just sort of settle in and find where your center is. The most important thing is to be comfortable, and comfortable enough so that you don't fidget or experience too much physical discomfort. When you're sitting on a cushion, it's important to sit so that your hips are higher than your knees. Each knee should rest on the ground to the best of your ability. And your bottom should rest on the cushion in a way that your weight is evenly distributed among the 3 points of contact. There you go, you got it. You can put your legs like one in front of the other if you need to, if it doesn't work for your knees, or you can sit half lotus. For those who choose to sit in a chair, your back should not be resting against the back of the chair. You should sit forward enough on the chair so that both feet rest flat on the floor. If you have any sort of back or hip injury, or if you're new to meditation and your body just isn't used to sitting this way, having some extra support can be really helpful. You can put a cushion behind your lower back or under your feet. If you want to get up and grab a cushion, you can if you want to. Generally speaking, though, your posture during meditation should just be stable and alert. And if you experience any itches or urges to move, try ignoring them and see what happens. But if whatever's happening is too distracting for you, just scratch the itch or adjust your position gently, and then return your attention to your breath. So we hold our hands lightly in our lap in what's called the cosmic mudra, with the tips of the thumbs just touching each other and the palms facing up, with the right hand cradling the left. If during meditation you find that your thumbs are pushing too hard against each other, you can just relax them and bring them lightly back together again. And if you're too relaxed or sleepy, your thumbs are probably going to come apart. And when you notice this, just bring them back together again. So most Zen meditators practice with their eyes slightly open. If you're not ready to do that yet, you can meditate with your eyes closed, but know there's a greater chance that you might drift into a dreamy, half-awake state or fall asleep. If your eyes are slightly open, just relax all those tiny muscles around your eyes and let your vision relax however it's going to. Just let your sight settle naturally on the ground right out in front of you. There's no need to stare or go out of focus. Just let your visual field change however it's going to. Your mouth should be closed, and the tip of your tongue should rest on the roof of your mouth, just behind the top row of your teeth. We breathe from the deepest part of our diaphragm, not from our upper chest, from down here. Throughout the meditation, take slow, controlled inhales through your nose, fill up your lungs, and then slow, controlled exhales through your nose, breathing out all of the air. If you feel like your mind is really restless or agitated tonight, you can try counting your breaths. If you try that and it still doesn't feel right, you can abandon the counting and just try returning your attention to your breath. Just be patient with yourself. Just do the best that you can. And you can recognize that your mind has wandered and bring your attention back to your breath as many times as necessary. There's no right or wrong number of times you can bring your attention back to the breath. I think maybe we'll start with 25-minute meditation. I'll ring the bell 3 times to begin and 3 times to end. Okay, so allow yourself to settle into your space and into your posture. Get as comfortable as you can. And here we go. guys want to take a minute to stretch? How's everybody doing? Yeah, unfold your legs. Does anybody have any questions, or did you notice anything about the first sit? Anything come up for you? So I had a really long conversation with a friend of mine today, and some of this stuff that I jotted down has to do with that. I kind of like to spend a little bit of time in these classes talking about how sitting, especially in zazen, kind of relates to our everyday life off the mat, because if there isn't a connection between what we're doing here and what happens out there, then we tend to lose interest. So in Zen practice, when we sit in zazen, we're experiencing present moment awareness. That's what we're actually doing. We're not taking a nap or rest. We're not daydreaming, and we're not escaping. Zazen is a time when we train ourselves to slow down and experience the present moment, because normally I'd say we process each moment without much or any real attention. And I say attention because I'm not sure that saying without thought is accurate. We have plenty of thoughts, and those thoughts are in response to each present moment throughout our day. But I'm not so sure most of us have clear awareness, because our brains process experiences so fast and in such a seamless, automatic way. I think we spend much of our time reacting and having thoughts without necessarily having a clear awareness of our thoughts and our experiences of the present moment. It sort of just happens all at once. So as I've begun to understand that the present moment isn't just a moment-to-moment coming to fruition of the past, it's also shaped by our intentions and our inclinations right now. And I've been able to begin to look at my breath, which is part of my body, and my inner dialogue, how I talk to myself in my head, which is part of my speech, and the tone of my feelings and perceptions, which is part of my mind, as all having an impact on the present moment and influencing what occurs as a result moving forward. I think this is how we actually interact with our karma. And when we're not aware, our past experiences act like filters and triggers that shape our present reality, because that's how our brains work. Our brains are primarily trying to keep us safe. So our past experiences impact how we interpret the present. When we start to become aware of how this filtering and triggering impacts us, whether more stress than peace manifests, we can sit in meditation and observe our thoughts to notice the tone of the thoughts that arise. Zazen provides us with an opportunity to sit quietly without judgment, so our natural inclinations become a lot clearer. And when we can see the tone of our thoughts and feelings, and we regulate ourselves by anchoring to our breath, our mind will eventually settle into a place of understanding that despite what may happen when we don't pay attention or notice, when we do pay attention to how we naturally receive and filter and express the present moment, we can impact the peace we experience versus the stress. So I've come to see my mind kind of like the mechanism by which I process each present moment as it arises, impacting what happens moving forward. And when I noticed the natural inclination of my mind was leaving me with more stress than peace, I recognized I needed to make some changes to the way that I think. And it's the awareness of the natural tone of our thoughts that helps us move toward more peace. So the Buddha talked about the two arrows of suffering. The first arrow represents the physical or emotional pain and suffering that an unavoidable part of life presents. It's the thing that happens that we don't have any control over. The first arrow is that initial painful or unpleasant event itself. The second arrow is the suffering that follows, which he said we do have control over. This arrow represents our mental and emotional reactions to the first arrow. So these reactions cause suffering, including thoughts of anger or blame, rumination, or aversion. And the Buddha taught that the second arrow is optional and is the direct result of our reactions. He taught that practicing non-attachment is the primary means to avoid the second optional arrow of suffering. And so non-attachment allows for clear and flexible engagement with life's inevitable pains without letting them trigger the suffering of the clinging and aversion or rumination from the second arrow. Non-attachment means that we understand that everything in life is impermanent and constantly changing. And it means that we learn to let go of our ego's need to constantly grasp and cling and control. And we embrace engaging with our experiences with flexibility and compassion. So beginning with understanding that all phenomena are not independent, but arise in dependence on causes and conditions, which the Buddha called dependent origination. We can begin to understand that our own intention is really important, because our experiences in life arise and are the result of previous actions that happened, some or all of which we may or may not have had anything to do with. But our responses to our experiences are not predetermined. And this is where we have the ability to make an impact on what happens moving forward. This is our karma. So in each present moment, in each encounter, and in each experience, every single one of us is processing the result of the fruition of past karma, past actions that we might have had nothing to do with at all. And we're creating new, hopefully beneficial and wholesome karma, which subsequently impacts everything moving forward. So the classic way, I think, to think about this is like ripples in a body of water. And those ripples get generated and move outward from a single point, like when you throw a small stone into a lake, and then the ripples form and go out this way. So we always have a choice about how we want to handle what the Buddha called the second arrow. We can let our natural inclinations continue to influence what happens next. And if you're a person who is naturally inclined to process everything in a positive way, and you experience a lot of peace in your life, then you're in great shape. But if you're like me, and you notice that your natural inclinations sometimes tend toward thoughts and feelings that lead to more suffering, clinging or aversion or rumination or whatever, then know that by sitting in zazen and letting your mind settle over time and paying attention to the tone and the quality of your thoughts, offer the opportunity to improve and change the way that you process experiences in your life. And seeing that your mind can do more than just reactively reflect your past experiences, those filters and triggers that I mentioned before, impacting how you process each present moment. You can change the quality and tone of your thoughts to give yourself more peace and less stress. And so zazen allows you the space to become aware that you have agency over the quality of your thoughts and the resulting feelings, which then influence and impact your actions. Have I lost you? You're shaking your head this way. You're good. You get it. Anybody have any questions? Anything you want to add? Anything that comes up?
That came up for me. I, during the meditation, was just thinking about loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling for the first time, just really grateful. Not for the first time, but for the first time in a minute. But yeah, so I was just thinking about the loving kindness meditation. Maybe this is a chance to send good wishes,
Mm-hmm.
To someone or some people in my life that I'm struggling with. and like disconnection and resentment and all that stuff. And I was struggling to send good wishes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started judging myself
Mm-hmm.
for struggling to send good wishes, because then I was like, one, I was already in pain thinking about the resentment, and then two, I was judging myself for the resentment and deeming myself as bad.
You just made yourself more miserable.
Yeah, I made myself more miserable.
Right.
Because I had the negative thought and then I judged the negative thought.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the second arrow. And I was kind of able to recognize that, but it also just followed like a pattern of thought I have. I noticed that typically I have a thought and then I'm critical, self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how do I turn that around, and turn the self-criticism down a few notches, now that I'm aware of it?
Mm-hmm. That's the key. That's why I love this. And I also practice loving kindness meditation. So sometimes I'm here on Wednesdays doing loving kindness meditation. And it's interesting because the zazen practice, because it's quiet and it's not guided, it gives you a lot of space. Sometimes we have days where we're just like overstimulated or whatever. When we get in here, our mind is jumping around like crazy and it's hard to settle down. And you really just have to give yourself a lot of grace on those days and try different things to just sort of come back into a space where you can allow yourself to settle. And eventually you will settle down. But that loving kindness meditation, in the beginning when I was practicing it, I found it difficult to send genuine loving kindness to people that I had trouble with or disliked. And so then, like, same as you, I started to really look at it. And the first part of looking at it was judging myself. But once you recognize that you're doing something, it's kind of hard to not know you're doing it anymore. The answer might not come immediately about what to do, but now you're aware of it. You can't not be aware of it anymore. It's when we run around all day long just having reactions to things and not really being mindful of the quality of our thoughts. We just have the thoughts. Everything's like a knee-jerk reaction. But when you start to look at the way that you naturally or you're inclined to process things, you can make decisions about how you want to be once you're aware of how you are. They say it's something to the effect of, you can't, they talk about no self, like you can't let go of the self until you get to know yourself first. And so you just have to give yourself a little bit of grace. But the first step is the awareness. And so if you weren't meditating and you weren't sitting with yourself, you would just continue. It would just continue and continue. And the second arrow becomes the third arrow. And, you can keep continuing and dragging your own, suffering along with you instead of being able to recognize it and say, I need to do something different. And it really doesn't take that long, from my experience, that once you start to look at the tone of the way that you speak to yourself in your head, or the way that the thoughts come up, and then you go, hey, wait a minute, before you can start to make little tiny changes. But little tiny changes add up over time pretty quickly. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a reflection. I don't know if it's necessarily a question. First, thank you for providing a space to be able to sit, feel a little bit more settled. Appreciate your reflections on zazen and also the double arrows. Yeah, I think there's a part of myself that has this autonomy that wants to cling on to the second arrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a special education teacher that works with students with intense behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So students posturing on me, students, saying F you. And so I feel this insurmountable amount of pain. And I think the second arrow is being able to have the autonomy, like, I'm in a lot of pain, and I don't know how solidified this type of career is for me. Or, yeah, this student did this. It's very, very difficult dealing with the student. Oh my gosh, I should leave. I should quit. So it's this type of suffering within recognizing the second arrow that I'm in a lot of pain and I want to escape. But having a tangible option of, no, I could leave. I could follow that second arrow. And yeah, I don't know how to tie it into a question. And I know it's pretty specific to me, but I feel part of my ego clings on to the second arrow, knowing that there's another way. And yeah, maybe it's being able to, thank you for allowing me to reflect, is to recognize the pain. And if I do want to make a change, is being more discerning about it rather than being caught in a state of liminality.
Yeah. I mean, we're always in a position to decide what is healthy and safe for us. And I can understand certainly dealing with kids or other adults or whoever like coming at you all the time. That is a painful experience because you're the recipient of that. I had something happen not long ago where somebody else had made assumptions about something that wasn't even real. They just like went down a rabbit hole in their head. And I was on the receiving end of it. And what I recognized, because it wasn't based in reality, and I'm not saying that what you're experiencing isn't based in reality, it very much is. But what I was able to recognize was that was that person's suffering coming out. That wasn't my suffering. And even though I was on the receiving end, like you're on the receiving end, perhaps it could be helpful for you to recognize the suffering coming from the students, because we're only in our own bodies and our own heads. We only know how that feels, right? But that's a human being in a body with behavioral issues that's trying to get through life too, right? So they have a certain amount of suffering and frustration and limitations or whatever it is. And so compassionately to recognize that that's the expression of their suffering doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pick it up and carry it, even though it stings, does hurt for sure. But when I was able to see that that was somebody else sort of lashing out and suffering and not having any other way of experiencing whatever it was she was experiencing, it didn't have anything to do with me. I mean, they might be upset with you in the moment because, you know, you're the teacher and they're not, or they can't do what they want or whatever's happening, right? And I'm not suggesting that you stay in a job that's not healthy or safe for you, but it's just something else to weigh. You know, you can see the suffering and feel it and then put it down because it's not coming from you, right? It's coming from them. And so that compassionate part of you is probably why you're there in the first place, because you want to help. Doesn't necessarily solve anything, but just another perspective. All right, we have, anybody else got anything? We got about 10 minutes. And I love the Zen people because you guys want to just sit. And I love the sitting. Sometimes it's just nice to just sit. Yes, Art.
I had something happen at work probably about a month ago. And I had to get my knee and rep involved. And at first, I was like, that's this administrator. We see things very differently, but she kind of said I wasn't doing my job how she wanted me to do it. Anyway, the real issue was this, that one thing led to another, and I feel that she kept on targeting me. So that's why I got my knee rep involved. It took me back to a time not too long ago where something similar happened, and I handled it very differently. I'm in recovery, enough said. But I handled it very, very wrong. And, that's a lot of things, a lot of consequences. So this time when that started happening, it took me back to that moment, and I had to catch myself. I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to that, because that's what I'm, not that that's what I'm comfortable with, but that's what I know. That's my immediate reaction. So I would come here, or I would go to the other temple on the park, and something that I've learned by coming here to all you guys is to learn to sit with my emotions. For a while, I started kind of getting scared of myself because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, my anxiety was really high. And again, I was going off how I used to react to these situations. So today I got a phone call. I talked to the union president, and she said, "You're good. Like, you're good." And as soon as I got that phone call, I was like, well, I knew I was going to be okay. I didn't do anything. But again, it's just, it's my old way of thinking, stinking thinking. And I was finding out all the things that could go wrong in every little scenario. And you know what? It's just none of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I've learned is, and at least in my situation, to talk to someone, to let someone know what I'm going through. Because again, I would try to bottle it all in. And for people like me that have other things going on, that's not good. So the one thing, that's why I love coming here, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm in good health. I have a job. I'm gonna, I have a bed to lay in, whatever the case is. This is gonna work itself out too. It's just me again, holding on to that old train of thought was serving a purpose. That's how I understood.
But you can see it, and that's what's amazing, because the decision making is so good.
Yeah, I had to call my sponsor and the house manager at where I'm staying at. And I was like, I gotta pat myself on the back, because I see real progress now. Because
Right on.
old way of me would have done something stupid, really stupid.
Which is funny, because I've known you for a while now, and I do not know that old you at all. That is not who you are at all today. So real proof that sitting, and even with stuff that's uncomfortable, and giving yourself a little bit of grace and compassion, room to process stuff, room to feel it and identify it and move through it and find a better way, so that you're not creating more suffering for yourself and you're creating more peace for yourself. It's all good. All right, we have 5 minutes. Let's sit for 5 more minutes, because I love this so much. Thanks, guys, for sitting with me tonight. That was a good one. Before y'all head out, our lovely Vicky has some announcements.
Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, Vicky. We opened the Dharma Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on the website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could help latch the windows, that would be great. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Yeah.